Jonathan Johnson with an old school. I love it. Look at that PSG shirt. Very nice. Is that the Ronaldinho one, Jonathan Johnson, or is that a little later? What is that?
No, man. This is much older. This is the original golden era. Think like High and Leonardo. I mean, I saw Jimmy was wearing a dustbin bag, and figured I'd bring up the levels of class a little bit.
That hurts my soul. I just wanted to give a shout out to Puma when they actually made good jerseys. The ones that they're wearing now are terrible. So
you mean the advertising ones?
Oh, it's so bad. Anyway, thanks for that. Thanks for that dig, JJ. Appreciate it.
I love it. Well, Jonathan Johnson, I'm repping for both of us right here. AVFC. All right, let's talk about Ligue PSG, of course, coming back after that draw against Club Brugge. Jonathan Johnson, now they face Lyon. This is a big game, buddy. What do you have for us, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big game for many reasons. Obviously, PSG's most difficult Ligue 1 fixture so far. It's a big game for Lyon as well because it's not been an ideal start to the season for them. We'll see how they get on. We know that they've got Europa League action as well against Rangers to get them in the mood for that one. They're missing Moussa Dembele, so they're going to need him back for the trip to Parc des Princes. I feel we'll see what happens there. But PSG have their own headaches to contend with. We don't know the severity of Kylian Mbappe's knock from the match against Club Brugge yet. So that will obviously factor into Pochettino's thinking when he debates about how he can try to get Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe firing together. And perhaps it's that, he's got one less headache and doesn't have Mbappe to count on this weekend. We know that he will have Angel Di Maria back. Di Maria obviously suspended in the Champions League, but eligible to play in Ligue 1. He'll make a big difference. Idrissa Gueye will be back as well, and I think he was missed in the midfield. And then obviously another question mark over Marco Verratti as well. So plenty for PSG, to potentially feel buoyed by coming into this match. But, it's going to be an interesting test because PSG's fixture list so far has been relatively straightforward. And Lyon are still finding their identity, their shape under Boss. So, I think it's a big game for both and an early marker in the season for these two sides.
Okay, JJ, you said that Mauricio Pochettino has some headaches, or he's going to have one less headache because he doesn't have to choose who's going to start or whatever it is. Is Pochettino creating his own headaches? Because it doesn't seem like he has gotten the right lineup, and I know that he hasn't had everybody at his disposal. There's a ton of expectation on this team, especially from me. I'll raise my hand and say I've expected better. And they just look like maybe they have too many luxury players and not enough players that get in and do the fight, because you have to have that balance in the team. And maybe that's what you're talking about with regard to headaches.
Yeah, I think that it's fair to say that Pochettino doesn't yet know his strongest 11, but let's also bear in mind that with the transfer dealings that they did over the summer, it's basically a new squad for him. It's not the same squad that he inherited in January. And once everyone's fit and available, he won't have to, go with makeshift players in certain positions, like a Verratti as a number 10, for example. The real crux of the issue is going to be how often he has to do without certain key players, because Verratti, we've said it so many times before, he's still so important, still so influential in that midfield. But we also saw the value of Idrissa Gueye as well against Club Brugge, because he does exactly what you were talking about, gets stuck in, mucks in, gets hold of the ball, and gives them a real enforcing presence in the midfield. I thought Pochettino could have gone with somebody like a Marquinhos for that match in particular, because he's so much more of a midfield enforcer than anyone else that PSG had out on the field in Belgium. But, I also think that they lack that creativity as well. And they still need to solve that. So Pochettino, in terms of the headaches that he just has to settle on an actual 11 that he feels, he can get to function and, perhaps make a few difficult decisions along the way, because he's not going to be able to accommodate all of those stars, especially when you consider a possible 3-4-3 formation where, you've got Nuno Mendes, who already looks very, very impressive, coming on with a late cameo against Club Brugge. It doesn't look like it's going to be that long before he's installed into that starting 11. So that's going to be one less position, for potentially one of those luxury players that you were mentioning.
And that's a position that's very needed, I think, in terms of vulnerability for PSG. Very quick question here, JJ. Obviously, this game's at Parc des Princes. What's the mood in Paris after the midweek loss. And how do you think there's going to be a little bit of pressure of the sentiment and the atmosphere as Mauricio Pochettino and PSG get ready for Lyon?
I don't think there's necessarily going to be any pressure just yet. There'll be some expectancy. I think that the reaction probably would have been a lot worse if they'd lost to Club Brugge, which, to be perfectly honest, give credit to Club Brugge. They absolutely deserved the draw, and I don't think people would have been that stunned if they'd actually managed to sneak the win. They had some good chances. Noah Lang almost scored an absolutely stunning bicycle kick effort, which I think many people would have sort of wanted to have seen gone in. Just because it would have been one of the goals of the competition. So we'll see how PSG deal with that. I don't think there'll be any real backlash, but there will be an expectancy now that the likes of Messi, the likes of Neymar in particular, who's been very, very jaded so far this season, will finally step up and start to deliver. And I think that's one of the main concerns for PSG at this moment in time, aside from Mbappe and that potential injury that could keep him out for a while. The fact that Neymar is just drifting through games at the moment and rarely even registering. And, I had to remind myself a couple of times that he was on the pitch in Belgium, and that's not digging him out. It's just, saying it as it is. He was not on the ball enough, not involved enough. And I think that's something that Pochettino absolutely has to remedy as soon as possible. But I think certain players returning to particularly the midfield, will help in terms of, creating clear-cut chances for PSG. And also if Mbappe is out, potentially opens the door to Mauro Icardi as well. So I think the fans will be expecting some sort of show to be put on by PSG against Lyon.
Yeah, right. I said a loss. I felt like a loss. It was a midweek draw. Jimmy, give me that betting tip, baby.
There is no betting tip. It's so heavily favored to PSG. I mean, just pick your poison. Really, the values are the players that you think might score in this one.
Draw 440 though, Jimmy Conrad.
What's that?
Draw plus 440 though. You don't see a draw?
I mean, no, I don't see a draw. I mean, very similar to Juventus. This is a game that PSG need to have. They have to win. They need to kind of show some resolve and to be able to rebound in a positive fashion. So it's so one-sided. I'll come back to it and take a look at that. I actually, though, had a question about Nice.
Yeah, let's get into it. Who are they playing today? This week?
Playing Monaco, and no, Monaco not looking the same, at least to start the season, as they did last year. I did want to talk about Nice because Christophe Galtier left Lille after winning Ligue 1, which I found still to be perplexing, but I know you have some insight on that, JJ. But Nice have played 4 games, they've scored 10 goals, and have given up 0. So he leaves the Ligue 1 champs to go to Nice, who are relatively mid-table, and he's absolutely crushing it with them. I actually think they're the favorites and should beat Monaco, all things considered. Talk to me about Galtier and what he's done so far with Nice. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were questioning his decision to leave Lille, but I think when you look at the way that the Lille project has gone since they won their title, people aren't really surprised that they're struggling this season. There was a fire sale expected. We didn't see that quite happen in the summer, but there were potential transfers that could have gone through at the last minute. Renato Sanchez, had he stayed fit, would have left the club. There's just a feeling of apathy around Lille. It was quite sad, really, in the build-up to that game against Wolfsburg, that Lille were offering tickets around at very cheap prices because there were about 19,000 seats available in the 24 hours before the game. And that's to see the French champions in action, which is really saddening for me as somebody who's really passionate about Ligue 1 and French football, French domestic football as a whole. But I think Galtier as well, he knew, I mean, he's got very close ties, to sporting director at Nice, Fournier, and he knew the project that was coming together at Nice. So he was very motivated to go there. Something else you have to consider as well with French teams is when they don't have continental commitments, you quite often have these teams that have quite a strong starting 11 with maybe 1 or 2 good subs, but they don't necessarily have the strength and depth to compete in the continental competitions. Now, Nice are one of those teams where you look at their starting 11, they have some very, very good players now, especially after a good summer transfer window. And now Galtier is putting those pieces together, and they're looking like a very good team. I'll be honest, I didn't expect them to quite hit the ground running as they have, but Galtier coming in, in my opinion, he's France's best French coach who still coaches in Ligue 1. I can't speak highly enough of him. And the fact that he's gone to Nice suggests to me that he sees that as being the project, the most credible project in terms of challenging PSG over the coming sort of 3 to 5 years. He could have gone to a club like Lyon. They were interested in him. There was an interview, but he chose Nice, and not only because of his links with Fournier, but because of that project that they're putting in front of him. And the early signs are very positive. Obviously, we'll see how it pans out with the game that's going to be replayed against Marseille. We saw those ugly scenes a couple of weeks ago. That decision's now been made where it will be replayed at a neutral venue with no fans. But, Nice looking very, very good. And the fact that the defense is so tight is something that really surprised me, despite the fact that they managed to bring in Todibo on a permanent deal and strengthen around him as well.
All right, very quickly, Jimmy Conrad.
I got some bets on that. Yeah, I would say it's crazy to me that Nice are actually the slight underdogs at home against Monaco, who've only won one game all season, haven't looked the same, even though they got Wissam Ben Yedder and Kevin Volland, and I get it. But Nice to win straight up is plus 170. I'm looking at that. And then really quick about PSG. If they win and both teams score, which I expect, Lyon is very good at hitting the back of the net, but they're also good at giving up goals as well, especially in their last 2 games, which have been wins. So PSG to win both teams to score plus 145 is the best value I can find with regard to that.
All right, let's do Lens v Lille under a minute. Let's see if we can do it. JJ, talk to me about this game, and then Jimmy with the betting tips right after.
Yep.
All right, so Lille, difficult start to the season, for obvious reasons. I've never been convinced that Jocelyn Gourvenec was a good coach, a good choice of replacement coach for Galtier, and that's kind of proving my point at this moment in time. Lens, they've lost a couple of key players over the summer, but they've still managed to keep the same sort of core of the squad. I really, really rate Franck Hez. I mean, we're talking about Galtier. We just talked about Galtier now. I think Hez is potentially the next guy who could follow in his footsteps. And Lens, I perhaps fancy them to nick this derby. Yeah,
plus 155 for them to win straight up. Lille's plus 180. The draw's plus 230. So I kind of am going with Lens as well. They're undefeated right now, 2 wins and 3 draws, off to a great start. And I think if they could get some points and potentially win all 3 against the reigning Ligue champs, that'd be something they could be very proud of. And we'll see. It's a crazy year in Ligue 1. I mean, we have PSG in that storyline, but everything else underneath, it's very competitive.
Well, that's a perfect segue because I want to ask one final question to wrap everything up in Ligue 1 from both of you. Jimmy, let's begin with you. What's your biggest Ligue 1 takeaway so far, aside from obviously PSG? You can include PSG, but if there's anything else that has struck to you.
Well, I'm just going to say that Marseille, my favorite club in Ligue 1, are currently undefeated as well. Shout out to Jorge Sampaoli for figuring it out. Obviously some work to do, but yeah, it's been a great start. 10 goals for, 5 against, kind of figuring it out on both sides of the ball. Obviously, they got to replay that game against Nice. They were down 1-0 when that thing got canceled, and Dimitri Payet took it upon himself to take on all the fans. I respect the courage. respect the courage of him to try to do that. But, yeah, I'm really excited for Marseille. So that would be flying under the radar of a team we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, I completely agree with Jimmy as well. Credit where it's due. Marseille have really turned it around. And I think that, there's some very interesting players, sort of coming back into form at the moment. You've got Under, who I think looks very good, both with Marseille and Turkey. You've got Conrad de la Fuente, who's really relishing the extra minutes that he's being given in France. And then you've got, some of the other summer arrivals. Guendouzi as well, I think, has really, come on after, stagnating a bit. So Marseille, definitely a big positive. And, we've already spoken at length about Nice, who I think, have really impressed me with the way that they've been able to hit the ground running. And, Lille being one of the more disappointing sides. I mean, I would mention Bordeaux here, but I didn't expect them to be in any way, shape or form competitive. Obviously, they got Petkovic from Switzerland, but the club was such a mess, being saved from financial oblivion, that it doesn't surprise me to see them sort of struggling down there at this moment in time.